This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, Corey Graves adding to his profile, and WWE has a creative shakeup, and this WWE Hall of Famer is removed. Also, we've got your review of the Elimination Chamber and how that impacts our road to WrestleMania, and we'll take a look at AEW Dynamite. I got some questions about some booking. I want to get the Doc's opinion on it. Speaking of the Doc, he's the one. He's the only. He is taking the steel chair to the wrestling industry, and he is living in an Elimination Chamber pod. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
We are now knowing the two main events at WrestleMania. Man, I do feel bad for Drew McIntyre. I'm trying to find the excitement for Randy versus Cody. I understand it. It's business. That's the marquee. But I do think that they kind of did it in reverse where they have the match. Now they're going to do the build. But listen, it's two marquee matchups in the main events of WrestleMania. I understand it, but I looked at it from the perspective of Drew. Like, man, he only had the title for 56 days. And right now on YouTube, 41,000 dislikes for the victory of QB1 Cody Rhodes. But just in regards to Elimination Chamber, my overall thoughts were there was no way you were going to live up to it from last year when you had the heel turn from John Cena. But by and large, you know, all I can say is if the only viral thing from the event is LA Knight botching a jump off the rope, you're just like, well, that kind of summarizes the event. It just wasn't as good as last year, but good enough to be entertained for a night. But there was just too many things that happened that just made it an event that you said, okay, just another PLE. But in the end, I am happy that they set up Randy Orton by having him win it, and they didn't do Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, look, I thought for a pay-per-view that is supposed to be the one that's sandwiched between two of the big ones, this one was completely lackluster. Like, it to me, it didn't feel like a big build going into it. Looking at the matches, I think the matches suffered because of some of the storytelling that was done. And then you get to it, and it felt very, very predictable. Like the Randy Orton win was probably the one that had you going like, okay, yeah, I guess. But the rest of this was very just, you know, A equals B, B equals C. This is what we've got, and then we'll make our way to WrestleMania, and we'll kind of figure it out on the way. And this feels like something that is, at this moment in time, very Triple H, which is with his booking. It feels like it's very, we'll figure it out along the way. And as a good booker, you have to be able to do that. You've got to be able to pivot hard, especially when guys get injured and storylines don't go the way they're supposed to go because of things happening on the outside. All that being said, it feels like the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, Triple H has kind of been doing that. And I think you're starting to see it on the television screen. You're starting to see it in the pay-per-views. You're starting to see this where there's a little bit of a disconnect with the storytelling process and the product that we're getting. All that being said, let's get into this because we kick the show off with the women's Elimination Chamber match. Rhea Ripley ends up winning. She defeats Tiffany Stratton, Kiana James, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss. I want to get your thoughts about Rhea being the one who won this match. We did our predictions the week prior. Rhea was my number 2, right? I wanted Tiffany Stratton to win it. Rhea was my number 2. I didn't necessarily want to see Rhea versus Jade. I still don't necessarily want to see Rhea versus Jade. I think the one thing that makes this compelling is there is real life heat with a lot of wrestlers with Jade Cargill. This spilled out on the internet. Rhea Ripley basically said, not friends, not having fun. Don't defame others to elevate yourself, and just kind of went on this whole thing as Jade Cargill ended up going into business for herself. And really, the WWE women's locker room came to Rhea's defense, even though she didn't need it. She was handling things herself. But it just goes to show you that a lot of the people a lot of the women in the women's locker room do not like Jade Cargill, so much so that Piper Niven essentially said, I will walk your ass and I will beat the fuck out of you if you really want to go there. So I want to get your take on Rhea winning this match and kind of how that sets up for WrestleMania with Jade Cargill. Because like I said, I feel like the most interesting part of all of this is the real life stuff, the real life heat. And then on Friday Night SmackDown, they didn't really even lean into all of that. They kind of tried to, but they really didn't. And my whole thing was, if you have all this spill out, this was talked about by everybody. It's all over the internet. Lean into it. Really lean into it. Almost blur that line of what's real and what you're doing as far as storytelling. And it really felt like they walked back from that line. And that to me, again, I'm not sure what Triple H is doing. You have something set up for you. Take it. Run with it. Use it, because I don't want to see this match. I don't care to see this match. To me, it's Rhea always by default. It's Rhea has assumed that Charlotte position where you don't know what to do. Charlotte's your big name. Charlotte gets the title shot. That's kind of Rhea right now. By default, Rhea gets it. And I love Rhea Ripley. I think she's fantastic. But I don't want to see her against Jade Cargill. I don't want to see this match. And like I said, the best part about all of it is the real life stuff happening, and they didn't touch it at all. Questioning to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of understand what happens, which is I think they know that there's real life heat and they're playing into it, but it's March 7th. So they don't want to unload the chamber right now. So what they do is they tease it and they want to extend it out. So I think that they're going to go there, but I don't think. I think what Triple H is his booking is it's very plotted, like it's very methodical and very slow. It's like a slow build, slow cooker. Where I think that in a feud like this, maybe it can get to nuclear type heat week after week after week. But I think that Triple H wants to control the narrative and control the heat level on this rivalry because it can go places where maybe they don't want to go. They just want to keep it to, hey, there's some heat. We understand why. We're going to have the women get involved. There's going to be obviously some realism, but I do think that it's methodical. And the match was good. I thought that everybody got their stuff over. But yeah, Rhea Ripley's box office. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is that there are now Triple H guys and gals, and Rhea is one of them. And I do think that she's been, for the most part, when you take a step back, she hasn't really been in the title picture for a year. She's been in a tag team. So you have to kind of include Rhea every so often because she's a big name star, and I do think that there's a nice natural rivalry that I think will develop between her and Jade, and there are going to be real elements. But I do think a lot of this is a shoot, and a lot of it is a shoot, but majority of this is a work. Like, hey, we have some real life heat. We know we have our why. Let's tap into it. But I think a lot of it is a calculated work. But when you have a little bit of shoots type stuff that you can go to, just wait and see the build for this matchup. I think it's going to be really good. But yeah, for us, we want it right now and we want it twice on Sunday. But I do think that you're going to see some zingers from these two ladies.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope this actually picks up, and I hope they lean into a lot of the real life stuff because, like I said, that's the most interesting stuff
for sure
going on right now between these two. Our next match, a little bit of a clunker. AJ Lee defeats Becky Lynch to win the IC title. Next was a very predictable match. CM Punk retains his title over Finn Balor. Again, nothing really crazy there. I think the most interesting part of all of that, Finn goes to the rope, goes to call for Judgment Day, and then stops himself. Yeah. So it shows that internal battle with Finn Balor right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about Finn Balor and Judgment Day as we kind of get into our Raw review here. Danhausen makes an appearance. Very mixed reaction from the crowd. This was a very flat crowd, if we're being honest. Yeah. What did you think about Danhausen's appearance and the reaction from the crowd?
Yeah, look, let's just eliminate dudes coming out from a box because if you're WWE and it's not Chris Jericho, does anybody tell Triple H, do we think he's going to get a good reaction? Now, he's a pro. He obviously took it in stride. But for somebody debuting in the company, it just came off as a wet fart. This was more of a situation in which you needed 5 weeks of vignettes, tell people who it is, this is Danhausen, this is what he's about, and then have him debut, not in a box. But that's what it is, and the crowd went mid when he debuted, and they actually started booing him. So, listen, man, that's what it is. Kudos to CM Punk for getting his boy an opportunity, And look, I do think that there's an opportunity for his gimmick to get over. But yeah, that's not the debut anybody expected from a crowd in Chicago that typically is a little bit more boisterous than they were for sure for Elimination Chamber. They actually kind of hurt the show.
Yeah, the crowd really kind of was a bit of a letdown here. This specific moment, like you said, I don't know what you're thinking putting a dude in a box and bringing him out, especially when for 3 months now we've been talking about Jericho. If it's not Jericho, or if it's not anything bigger than Jericho, it's just not gonna hit. So, like you said, somebody should have probably have grabbed Triple H and said, "Hey, man, this probably isn't a great idea." That being said, I feel like Danhausen did the best with what he had. I feel like Danhausen's appearances on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown have been good. He's a comedic act. Triple H doesn't do a great job with comedy. We'll see if Danhausen can help elevate himself. I think what he did, again, we're going to talk a little bit about Judgment Day here in a little bit. Tying in with the Judgment Day, Danhausen had a segment. Tying in with The Miz on Friday Night SmackDown. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think Danhausen can get himself over because he's good enough, but the material that Triple H is going to give him, I feel like, is going to not be the best stuff that Triple H does. Comedy is not his strong suit. We'll see what takes place with Danhausen, but again, I just didn't understand bringing him out in a box and debuting the box for a couple of days. It just didn't do anything for anybody. All right, that brings us to our main event. We get down to Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, as those guys had eliminated LA Knight, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams, as well as Logan Paul. In the match, as the match is unfolding, Seth Rollins makes an appearance, stomps Logan Paul, allows Cody to get the pin. Drew McIntyre gets involved, and in a roundabout way, helps Randy Orton win the whole match as Drew hits Cody from behind. Randy and Cody end up taking out Drew. Randy hits an RKO into a crossroads as Cody pops up. Randy hits him with the RKO and gets the 1, 2, 3. Look, I thought the end of this, and I thought most of this match was just overbooked. I don't think we necessarily needed all of this. I didn't understand bringing Seth Rollins back to beat up a guy who didn't even initially kick him out of his own group. The two guys who kicked him out of his own group, well, the three guys, they're on the shelf. So he takes out Logan Paul. All right, fine. He's part of the vision. I get it. You want to go there. I didn't necessarily understand debuting him here, bringing him back here. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. Drew getting involved in this match, I think it just, you're in a chamber. You're in a steel cage. Guys aren't supposed to be able to get in. Like, when that happens to me, it always raises a red flag and say, what are we doing? Why even have this match? Why even do this? Just have a regular old match if that's going to be the case. And to me, again, it just felt like the ending of this match was overbooked. What were your thoughts on Randy getting the win for one? And what did you think about the booking of bringing in a guy like Seth Rollins to stomp Logan Paul, having Drew McIntyre get involved in the final two as Randy was able to get the win after Randy and Cody kicked Drew out of the match?
Yeah, no, look, when you kind of now foreshadow, you would kind of tend to believe that Seth Rollins is going to face Logan Paul at WrestleMania. So to know that that's the end, okay, I get it. Seth is upset with really Paul Heyman, and I just think that Logan Paul is just an innocent bystander. But listen, this is the guy that's left, so I got to attack the Vision. I'm pissed. So Seth Rollins had to do whatever he could to really get at Paul Heyman. So I understand it, and I think that I'm excited for the potential of Logan Paul maybe being elevated just a little bit more by being in the ring with Seth Rollins. But Seth's over, so I get it. Yeah, you're right. Drew's involvement is just didn't do nothing for me. What I took away was, man, Trick Williams is going to be a mega star. He's getting entrances, made out for him. The Bobby Roode entrance with the circle, that was cool. I look at it, and my thing was, okay, I understand. Randy Orton is a big-time star. You potentially have a story if he does win at WrestleMania for him chasing history. That's always can be a year-long narrative or a narrative that you open up. But for me, I only looked at it from the perspective of, man, LA Knight is never going to maybe break through. And his wrestling now has started to suffer where it feels like every time that maybe an opportunity presents itself, he's always like dropping the ball. And it's like, oh, like even with the segment on Raw, okay, you still made a little bit of a botch there. So yeah. I look at it and I go, man, it's like he's over, but through the entire formula, they just haven't been able to break through LA Knight. And you just go, man, it would be nice if, like, right now we're sitting here recording and nobody has a clue what LA Knight could do at WrestleMania, and that just kind of sucks. But look, he's got a job. I think they realize that he's over. He's got a spot, but to me, I just felt like, okay, Randy Orton winning, now we know kind of where this is going to go. But unfortunately, Randy winning set forth a path where all week long we all know that, well, Cody's going to win the match on Friday. So it just kind of put a damper on the week because I just don't think a lot of people really cared to see that.
Yeah, and let's go right there, okay? So we'll go right to Friday. And look, Cody ends up beating Drew. And if you follow any of the dirt sheets, you follow any of the guys online,
Yeah.
they basically told you what was going to take place. This wasn't anything new. This wasn't anything crazy. It seems like, sounds like what they want is they want the Cody Randy. And this has nothing to do with Drew and Drew as a champ. It's just they want to see Cody versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And you knew going into this match when they made the match at the end of the pay-per-view, you knew what was going to happen. Like the only other outcome that could have happened, and even Drew shit all over the idea, and that was to have a multi-man match at WrestleMania. And he was like, well, why even have the Elimination Chamber then? Why even bother doing that? And that multi-man match would have consisted of Cody, Drew, Randy, Jacob Fatu, who got involved in the match on Friday night to help Cody get the win. You probably could throw Sami Zayn in there as he's lurking around crying about his opportunities. So, like, the only way you could have anything else would be to have this multi-man match for WrestleMania. And we've talked about those matches before. They're usually not the best. Like, those things are great for a Friday night SmackDown. Those things are great for a Monday Night Raw. Usually not what you're paying top dollar for, unless there's some type of stipulation with it, whether it be a TLC match, whether it be a ladders match. There's got to be something else. And even then, they're so chaotic, you miss most of the good stuff. So, look, again, I feel like Triple H booked himself into a weird spot. And if we're really talking about it, I do want to see Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. But I don't want to pay WrestleMania prices to see that. That's not one of those high-end box office matches that I'm dying to see. Like a lot of times what'll happen is something will get booked and you'll be like, man, I didn't realize I wanted to see that so bad. This isn't one of those matches. It's not. So, like, they've got work to do. They essentially have a month to sell me on this match, and I'm not interested in it at all right now. I know that they have a history, but I just don't care. I just don't care. And when you talk about this WrestleMania as a whole, I just don't care. I don't care about a lot of it. And I think you're seeing that, one, in the availability of seats. This is the same exact location that they sold out a year prior. And they sold it out with premium prices a year ago. And the ticket sales right now are down. Now, it's two ways that's impacting this, right? One, they are exorbitant right now. Like, the ticket prices are ridiculous. They're like up almost 400% over what they were last year. That's a TKO thing. TKO has priced out the average consumer. And then you look at the booking part of it, and again, this is one of your main events. I don't care. And if we're being honest, the Roman Reigns CM Punk, I think they've cut some great promos, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But you really got to work me to get me interested even in that match. Because when I watch these guys go back and forth with their promos, again, they're absolutely fantastic. The stuff that they have said to each other has been incredible. But I look at it and I'm just like, I feel like Roman's coming away the winner in this match. I don't think CM Punk's winning this match. You know what I'm saying?
That's the swerve. You gotta have Roman lose this match, and that's what I'm hoping. But to your point, you're absolutely right. It's that I wonder what it is to the lack of juice, and maybe it is tied to buzz. But to me, I look at it like, okay, we get it, and I think that because we're in it so much, a lot of it does become predictable because we are paying attention so much.
Yeah.
But I've been sitting back going, okay, you know what? I've been rethinking my thoughts on it in regards to, would I be entertained by a CM Punk Roman Reigns uh, uh, promo and storyline, and I'm yes. Will I be entertained by a storyline with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton? Yes, they're going to do great work. But I think the other thing is that I'm going to just diminish my, well, if they did this, it would be better idea, realizing, okay, there's got to be an acceptance level of, yeah, I would have loved Trick Williams, LA Knight to have a little bit more. Yeah, I would have loved crowds to do this. But I say, you know what? Yes, those are the small critiques that we have. But in the end, I do think that these matches are going to deliver because now those four dudes are going to want to steal the show. So I expect the matches to deliver. And I think that's where you and I have talked about it, where I said, you know what, with AEW, I understand the story needs to make sense and be all delicious, but in the end, I do think that the builds are never going to be as great as we want, but I think these matches that are going to be put together are going to be really excellent, and they're going to tell stories, get people involved. WrestleMania will deliver. I just think that I'm going to emphasize less on the story and realize that, you know what, these characters are going to tie together so many loose strings in regards to their own stories, and the promos between CM Punk and Roman Reigns are deeply personal because you know that they're talking from the heart, and so it's really good. And I just love the line that CM Punk delivered. It was the line of the week. He said, listen, I'm going to beat you, and then I'm going to bury you right next to your dad. And all the internet was like, woo! And now the same thing is going to happen between Randy and Cody Rhodes. And there's maybe even the small chance that Cody turns heel at WrestleMania, which I think would be legendary. If Randy's about to win, he gets the crowd over and he's about to do something, and maybe Cody gets help from somebody else or, does something. So we'll see how it all plays out. But remember too, it's this is all probably a byproduct of having so much programming, is that there's a show Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and then there's like 50 podcasts breaking it all down. But in the end, wait it out a little bit. Just give it one or two more weeks of build. I think once the card takes shape, and that's what sucks, is that I think for WrestleMania, they should just lay out the card fast after WrestleMania, but the Elimination Chamber, not the Rumble, is the kickoff to Mania. That's the truth. And Rumble kind of gets you the little seed. Elimination Chamber is the water sprouting all over the garden, and the fruits of the labor come out. And now we're starting to see some of the matches, and I'm getting excited. Seth Rollins and Logan Paul has a good chance. I'm curious what they're going to do with Jey Uso if it's going to be a tag match. And then also, too, I thought one of the promos of the week was Sami Zayn kind of talking to Cody like, hey, what do you think, I'm angling for a title? I wish you luck. So there's a seed of like, hey, what's going to happen next? So that's how I'm going to look at it is, yeah, the stories could be better, but man, the card's starting to take shape. And guess what, cuz? We don't have to pay the exorbitant prices because you and I are going to find our unique way at DocNJock to find these avenues to watch these shows. So, hey, good luck to those paying it because, yeah, you and I aren't paying it.
Yeah, dude. And that's the other part of it, right? The merger with ESPN has been absolutely abysmal. Like you've priced out, again, you have completely priced out the average man for your product. And so when you see these houses and they've got to tarp off the tops, and they've got to tarp off large sections, and TKO is like, well, why can't we put any butts in the seats? Well, people can't afford it. And on top of that, your storytelling's kind of going to shit. And we'll talk a little bit about storytelling when we get to news and notes, because WWE creative has basically overhauled large parts of their creative because things just aren't working well, just aren't going well. So it is one of those things where I think as a wrestling fan, you're finding yourself in this weird spot. And this happens all the time. Happens all the time with wrestling. Wrestling is one of those weird things where you can go away for a year, you can go away for 2 years. Just stop watching the product. You come back 2 years later, you turn it on, and you're like, man, this is great. This is really, really good. Sometimes you need that break away from wrestling because you just get so inundated with seeing the same stuff over and over, and some of the stuff just isn't any good. Something that was good that took place on Monday, however, was Penta being your new IC champ. I thought this was absolutely fantastic. Penta deserves a large runway to really get himself over. He is over huge. Now, there was a segment that happened earlier where Danhausen cursed Dirty Dom. Dirty Dom ends up going into the match. He's asking for help. Finn stops JD at ringside, and Dom ends up losing his belt. So congrats to Penta. But all of that being said, we have this never-ending story with the Judgment Day, and that is kind of at the centerpiece of Penta's win. Does this explode at WrestleMania? Does it explode before WrestleMania? At what point does Finn Balor either get removed from the Judgment Day or just step away from the Judgment Day entirely? And are you getting tired of this? Because I feel like we've been talking about this for almost 9 months now. maybe closer to 10 or 11. I feel like we have to go back to last year's WrestleMania and we started talking about all of this. At some point, does Finn Balor end up leaving the Judgment Day, or is this just going to continue into Affinity?
Finn, man, that's another one. That's where you're like, man, you have a roster full of talent that I think could be used in such a different way. Oh my goodness. Finn Balor, I hope, has an opportunity at whether it be WrestleMania through the builds. I hope there's an opportunity for him to be able to showcase. Man, he's a main eventer. And I did think the match with CM Punk was okay. And I do think that, he needs to kind of divert now and turn his attention to ending the Judgment Day, going through, and then now getting a run. And I think that, who could be up next? Penta. That'd be a great feud. I think that Finn Balor needs to readjust his goals, and Penta is over, and it was really cool to see the way in which Danhausen put the curse on Dom, and Dom looking at him like, what the hell is this? And it was funny with all the Hausen references, and I love the fact that Triple H did a picture with the game Hausen. It was funny, and I do think Penta, having lost a lot of IC title matches, made it really special, and it's really cool that the way that it's going to be cool to see how Penta now is able to defend, and he'll get his 150 days and they'll keep it moving. But I think that's what the IC belt can do for a guy like Penta is, make it special and then also have a nice feud with Finn Balor and go back and forth a little bit. And maybe Finn Balor lines up with Penta at WrestleMania. So we shall see how it progresses. But you're absolutely right. Finn Balor deserves a little bit more than the Miz treatment right now in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. Finn Balor's a guy who should be a main event wrestler, and for some reason it's just kind of doesn't even have a storyline going on.
Right?
The storyline has been going on for like 11 months, like I said, and is he going to be removed from his group, or is he going to leave his group? That's it. As far as WWE goes, was there anything else that really stuck out to you this week, whether it was from Monday Night Raw, whether it was from the pay-per-view that took place over last weekend? Was there anything from SmackDown that really stuck out to you? I will say this: my wife, now that we are busy with 2 kids, we did have our little baby boy earlier this past week. She obviously doesn't watch wrestling as much as she used to because she's incredibly busy with the kids as I'm trying to get stuff for us to talk about. She stopped in for a quick second and she checked out the Lash Legend and Nia Jax segment, and she commented on Nia Jax. She was like, "She have work done? What's going on there? She looks like she's smaller. Like she lose weight?" And I was like, "Yeah, she's on a weight loss journey. She's lost quite a bit of weight.
Yes,
she's doing really good." And the wife complimented her and said, "Hey, good for her. Hope she keeps it up." So that's just kind of a little side tidbit, something that if you are paying attention or if you are just a casual viewer, something that you might have noticed. Nia Jax continuing her road to a healthier her, and she's doing a great job. She lost quite a bit of weight, and she's really working at it. So
yeah, Gunther
really stood out to you.
Gunther, Damask Dragon Lee, and the internet went ablaze. I'm curious to see because Gunther kind of has taken a little bit of a step back. And look, I know it's cool. Is it Brock Lesnar? Is it? It seems like it's going toward Rey Mysterio. So I'm curious about that. I think something happened with Jordan Grace in a match on Main Event. So hopefully she's okay. But she was in a boot. She's online making jokes with Chelsea Green. And if you want to see somebody with the age-old farmer's tan, where she's got the whitest of white feet and the most tan body, she's like, please don't look at my feet. But that she was having fun with that. Hopefully she's okay, but she might miss her WrestleMania moment. But we shall see. But WWE had a decent week, and I'm really excited to see how it progresses moving forward because now we're starting to get a lot more nuggets about WrestleMania, and here we go. It's going to be an interesting opportunity. And I think because from just kind of watching Dynamite, I thought AEW had a really good week.
Yeah, look, I thought Dynamite had a really, really good week. And look, there's a lot going on. I did have something that really bothered me though, and I want to talk to you about it because again, Dynamite had a ton going on that was fantastic. Kevin Knight really showed
Yeah.
out against MJF. Thought that was fantastic. Thekla Thunder Rosa had a very solid match.
Yes.
David Finlay showed up. He basically said
What?
F WWE and debuted with AEW. We got new trios champs as Okada, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis beat Hangman Page, Kevin Knight, Speedball Mike Bailey. You knew that was kind of coming. They were just
Yep.
kind of holding the titles because they had to do some stuff because of what is it? Royce Keys had to go to WWE and he's doing nothing in WWE. But my big question is, why would you beat a debuting tag team in the Inspiration? So the Inspiration, if you
Right.
remember, were in WWE. They ended up taking some time off, went to TNA, became the TNA champs. I believe they were tag team champs in WWE as well. Become long-term TNA champs and do a fantastic job. These guys can do serious work and these guys can do comedic work. And they have a fantastic look. They wrestle incredibly well. And this is their first time on AEW television. And you beat them. I don't understand what Tony Khan sees in doing this with new talent. He tends to do this with a lot of new talent, and I think it kind of tells you how he views them. And I want to get your take on this. I want to understand. I want to get your understanding of what you're seeing and why they beat brand new guys. But I also want to get your take on if what I'm about to say holds any water and holds true. I feel like when Tony Khan brings in talent, unless he sees you as being immediately in the main event, he doesn't care. He will send you out there and he will have somebody roll you up for a 3 count and you'll figure it out next week. If he views you as a guy like a Kenny Omega, a guy like a CM Punk, a guy like a Hangman Page, he will protect the shit out of you and you'll get that win in your debut. But if he doesn't feel that way about you initially, you are instantly lumped into this mid-card vortex and you're probably losing that debut match.
Yeah.
To me, this made zero sense. I didn't understand it. And I don't like when you beat your brand new talent. You're supposed
Right.
to be excited about these guys. Like
Right.
I was excited to see them.
Right.
And they go out there in a losing effort.
It's a disconnect, and I'm going to tell you why. I think you're right to question it, but I think your reasoning is a little incorrect. And here's why. When you start to think about it, you're running a company, right? And I think this is where bookers get messed up, where they're like, okay, I have my people, and then I have an outsider, quote unquote. So if the outsider comes in and then just starts dominating, then it makes your like, wait a minute, the outsider from TNA and WWE came in and beat our people. So it's a point for our guys. And it's kind of like the WWE people where people say, well, Sting was never going to be really over. He's not a WWE guy. Triple H was always going to be the guy. And that's why many people are like, really? You didn't have Sting win at WrestleMania? What the fuck is that? But in the end, I think that Tony Khan looks at it like, all right, we're bringing in these people, they're in, so that's just the name recognition that, hey, they chose us, they're here. So that is the equation to, hey, they're with us, so now they're in the family, but I can't let the new talent beat my talent because then it looks like the other place, and this has to be this old ass dumb way of booking, and these bookers view it like my territory has to be special and I have to protect my territory, and so all these new people can't come in and get wins. But now it's 2026. Many fans want all the new guys to get a push. So you're absolutely right. It's old age thinking of, hey, you start at the bottom and you got to work your way up and take losses. It's like, come on. Like, you also are not really demeaning your own talent by having them be in the ring with these new, because what happens is, and when they eventually start winning, you go, well, just like what people are saying about Drew McIntyre, him losing, people are like, well, his character got ruined. 56 days. I mean, you don't think that Drew McIntyre was big enough to headline? Then why'd you make him a champion? So I think it's just age-old thinking in territories, and you're absolutely right. Like, you bring in people are excited, they want to see wins, and you're the guy that said, Tony Khan, wins and losses matter. So I just think it's an age-old way of thinking, and it's wrong. People should get pushes. That's what I would say. I would take less money. I'd be like, listen, Tony, I know you want to pay me $1 million. I'll take 900, but I want to go. I want to win 85% of my TV matches in my run throughout, and I want 2 6-month runs with whatever title. I would take less money, and I would want pushes because when you're a winner, you can go out on these card tours. And do you really want to see Lash Legend, or do you want to see Tiffany Stratton? And so winning matters, and I do think that to some degree, less money now could equate to more money later if you're viewed as a winner, not just a jag or jaw. Now that these women, just a woman, So let's go and let's see how they book them. But you're absolutely right; they could book these new talents so much better.
Yeah, it just, to me, like you said, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah,
Especially when you kind of build somebody up and you're like, oh, they're debuting, and then when they debut,
they lose.
Lost. And you're like, well, what the fuck? On top of that, to me, and I think this goes back to what you were saying, right? It comes across as disingenuous and a little bit disrespectful. Like, the Inspiration were big time TNA champs, and they were fun WWE champs, and you now come in and you lose to the Birds of Prey or whatever the hell they are, the little British birds, which like.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It's like
they're not better than the team that they just beat.
you just put a team together like 4 weeks ago, and you're beating a long-term
right.
Like, what?
Yeah,
to me, it just doesn't make sense.
You got to protect your investment a little bit better, and that's what WWE fails to do as well. Wins and losses, and when they happen, definitely make a difference in how people view people. Now, when they come out, it's like, okay, and they're not special.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I agree with you 100%, man. So Tony Khan's got to do some retro booking there, I guess, to maybe try to fix some stuff. What was your show of the week this week?
I thought Raw was the show of the week. When you get a new title, you get Gunther kind of doing some things to get some buzz, and the CM Punk promo, I thought Raw was the show of the week.
I will agree with you. I thought Raw was a very good show. You ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
All right. WWE announcer Corey Graves is adding to his profile. Graves recently announced that he would be teaching a new live sports production class at Point Park University in Pittsburgh. In a new faculty-featured video posted on Point Park University's YouTube channel, Graves explained his role, saying, I'm teaching a class about live sports production with a heavy focus on storytelling throughout a broadcast. I joined WWE as a wrestler, but since then, I've transitioned to commentator, and I've been lead. I've been the color analyst. I've worn many hats in WWE. Above all, I focus on storytelling. That's the main focus of my job. I believe the opportunity to tell stories across sports can really enhance the viewing experience to anybody. It's really important for me that my classroom is very collaborative. I don't want to stand in front of a room full of people and just preach to them. I want to know what they want to know. I want to know what I know that I can pass on to them. I really think the more we collaborate, the more we learn from one another, the better everyone is. Multiple students have already raved about the class thus far, so congratulations to Corey Graves for expanding his role and broadening his horizons a little bit. And finally, creative shakeups in WWE. Last month, it was reported that Ryan Ward would be overseeing creative for both Raw and SmackDown, replacing Road Dogg as the key figure for SmackDown. On Thursday night, WWE writer Alexandra Williams took to her LinkedIn page to reveal that she had been promoted to VP and lead writer of WWE Raw. She wrote, as VP and lead writer for WWE's flagship live program, I oversee all creative development for Monday Night Raw, one of television's longest running and highest rated weekly shows. I pitch and collaborate with executive leadership and cross-functional writing teams to conceptualize and execute week-to-week storylines, create character arcs, and premium live event build-ups, including WrestleMania and Survivor Series. I help drive the full creative process from episode rundowns to long-form narrative strategy, developing complex characters and compelling feuds that deepen audience engagement across live broadcasts, digital platforms, and social media. My work is informed by an analytical approach, tracking segment performance, audience trends, and viewership data to make real-time and long-term programming decisions. In partnership with talent, producers, and brand leadership, I've contributed to record-setting live event audience and revenue growth, helping position Raw as the cornerstone of WWE's content ecosystem under the TKO umbrella. So after this came out, after Williams was promoted, it was reported by Body Slam that Road Dogg had departed the company. If you go back a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about Ryan Ward getting the new position and kind of usurping him on SmackDown. He was a collaborative creative writer. She then gets promoted to VP, and now he is gone. If you watch any of the behind the scenes, I can't remember the name of the
Unreal.
Netflix story. Yes, Unreal. If you watch any of Unreal, you'll kind of see Road Dogg in the creative meetings, and he doesn't do a very good job of portraying himself.
Yeah, no.
His some of his creative ideas and some of the way he interacts with people at the creative table,
Too emo.
yeah, it's not very good. So he is now out, which is weird because that was one of the guys that Triple H worked to bring back. And again, him and Triple H have a long-term friendship. And I don't know if they could be mature enough to just realize it's business and they just do business. But I don't know. Like I said, after seeing how Road Dogg kind of presents himself on that show, I don't know if he is mature enough to handle it as just business. But he is done. He has been removed, and we'll see if that creative process gets any better with WWE. Something that we've kind of hammered throughout the show here. So we'll see what takes place. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. Great review of this week in wrestling. And now we're truly on the road to WrestleMania. Let's see how the stories progress. This week, I think, is going to be really solid with Raw, SmackDown, and everything going on in Dynamite. We are on the road. They still got 6 weeks of build. So we should see the evolution of what's going on. And also, we didn't even mention Paul Heyman. We wish you the best. You got taken out on Raw by the crew. So
around in an ambulance.
In an ambulance. So that was funny to see. And
hey, here's an idea. Why didn't they dump him in a river? Like a callback to the Detroit segment. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So we should.
At some point, they should have checked back in just to see where LA Knight was with Paul Heyman, just tooling around. And they never did. Just a missed opportunity. Something that could have, again, been funny.
But maybe this will be the onus of the return of Brock Lesnar, because you can't do that to Paul Heyman without any consequences. But we shall see how it progresses.
That's the match for WrestleMania. Maybe it's Lesnar Rollins.
Oh, we shall see, because that's the biggest question. That is now the tease: is who does Brock Lesnar get? For more insights and analysis and opinions, stay tuned next week for the next episode of Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast, which is featured on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.